I have a secret to tell you. I'm the only one that knows it up to now. I thought it would be a good idea to bring it up through this video. By the way, a few days ago, I went to the hospital for a general tests. At the end of all the tests, the doctor with great pain told me that I'm a carrier of an incurable disease caused by a genetic malformation, and that I would have a few years to live. Yes, I know. I imagine what you think or feel. At first, you are surprised to see me make such a personal revelation. You are touched to know that such a young priest would soon die. You are finally curious to know what exactly this disease is. Fortunately, this revelation is not true. Thank God, I'm healthy. What you thought and felt is similar to what Jesus' listeners thought and felt when Jesus proclaimed his death in the passage from John's Gospel that is offered to us on this fifth Sunday of Lent. From this Sunday onwards, we have 12 days to celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus, Easter. Since the third Sunday of Lent, Jesus has only announced his imminent death. His disciples are perhaps used to this kind of talk, but today he addresses a mixed crowd that has come to Jerusalem to celebrate the Jewish Passover. With symbolic language, he tells them that the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Amen, amen, I say to you, if the grain of wheat that falls into the earth does not die, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. But then he goes further to affirm that to follow him is also to accept to die. Let us stop for a moment. What kind of death is he talking about? Since we all are called to die one day. Or is he talking about the physical and violent death caused by others like his own? Yes, it is quite possible. That is what you call martyrdom. But martyrdom is a rare gift from God. It is not given to all. By the way, the death he is talking about is the death before death. In one way or another, almost all religions say that we have to die before we die. And then we will know what dying means and what it does not mean. Death before death is death in our ego. The ego refers to the self, that is, the representation or the awareness that every individual has of himself. The ego is often seen as the substance of our personality in the psychological domain. In the spiritual domain, the ego is seen more as that which prevents us from attaining a form of truth, of death in us. The ego is often in exaggerated search of power, control, pleasure, esteem, affection, security, and survival. It is why he panics when he's faced with his death. He doesn't want to let go of its addictions. It is at the root of almost all the problems of our societies and families. And for the ego, everything revolves around him. Let me give you a little example to help you recognize when the ego is in action. Try to remember how many times you have said, I, since morning. The number of times is already an indicator of its influence. Sisters and brothers, the following of Christ invites us to eliminate the influence of this ego within us. But how can we do this? The second reading from Hebrews 5:7-9 gives us a key: obedience. It is out of obedience to his Father that Jesus accepts death for us. That is it. To obey God or even others is really to die. But all obedience must be preceded by discernment. So, by dying before death, we will be able to connect with our deepest identity, with the center of our being, where the divine law, as Jeremiah's prophecy in the first reading says, where the divine law is inscribed. Let us die in our ego. Then, like the grain of wheat that falls into the earth, dies and sprouts, we will rise from the ashes of our ego and bear unimaginable fruits. Before we die, let us die. Happy Sunday to you all.